Hi there, everybody. Live from Poca in Jamaica. Welcome to Season 1, Episode 9 of PocaTV Live. This time, my very esteemed guest is activist, journalist, and poet Kabu Ma'at Kheru. So strap in really well, everybody, and so must I. Here we go.
Give me this. Give me that. Give me this. Give me that.
So, hi again, everybody. I am Poca, which stands for People of Common Attitude. Welcome for the very first time from my improvised studio in Poca, Jamaica, where I've been having a tiny little bit of vacation. So, as you can see, improvised, this is my living room. I tried my best to do some set dressing. So, over here, you see some fresh flowers from my yard this morning. Over my shoulder is a piece of art, an African mask that was gifted to me by my parents, I think from one of their many, many travels. Over my other shoulder, you see some artwork made by my mom. Hi, Mom. I borrowed it from your sweetie here in Poca. I know you're okay with that. I needed something big on that wall. And there's a little angel that was gifted to me by my very best friend on this planet, Mariella Goudberg, who comes from the Dutch Antilles, the former Dutch Antilles, Curaçao to be exact. And she bought this little angel for me there. It's made out of driftwood. And she carried it by hand all the way to the Netherlands to give it to me for here. So I carried it back, hand luggage, to the Caribbean, and it's been living here, guarding this place for, a good many years now. So I'm really thrilled to have you all here. Let me start by saying it's a glorious day here in Jamaica, a really lovely day, sun is shining, and you might be hearing some different sounds than you're used to, like the little birds tweeting outside, or the garbage truck that always comes on Friday and likes to blow his horn all the way up my street so that people get their garbage out on time. And the one thing that could go wrong today, fingers crossed it doesn't happen, is a power outage or an internet outage. These things happen in the developing world. The infrastructure is not totally up to date, or I don't know what's the thing, because we do pay top dollar for the services, mind you. But if there's an outage, well, that's the end of this for today. So once again, welcome to this 9th episode of the first season of PocaTV Live. I love it if you leave us a comment, whether that be on Facebook or on Twitter or on YouTube, wherever you're watching. My very special guest, I've told you already, is Kabu Ma'at Kheru, who is, well, let's put it this way, she's a force to be reckoned with. She's a broadcast expert, a broadcaster. She does radio programs and she does live things on stage, and she's constantly in online sessions this past year, and I'm going to talk to her about all of that. But like I said, she's a force to be reckoned with. And to give you a little taste of what she sounds like on the radio, check out this little clip.
Raise our voices against these kinds of wicked acts. Double dealing, underhanded, crafty, cunning, devious, designing, treacherous, perfidious.
Yes, that's Kabu. That's the way she deals. And you're going to know all about her life, all about her work, all about her dreams, and maybe a couple of things more. And we'll even get to the subject of poetry. In the meantime, make sure that you like the Facebook page and subscribe to the YouTube page. Well, you know the drill. So before I get to Kabu, you know that I always start these programs with a little shout out to my youngest sister, Aisha, who left us 10 years ago. and who's actually the person who inspired me to ever start PocaTV Live, even before that was really a technical option. So this picture I made for her in the Netherlands. At a certain point, you could make postal stamps with your own picture on them. And Aisha used to be the person sending cards at Christmas to the whole world, birthdays, all of that. And she used the stamps with her face on them. So forever livicated to Aisha, these live shows. Thank you so much for being with me in spirit all the time. A shout out to all my regular viewers who are, I know you're already in the comments. Thank you for being here. People watching the rerun as well. For example, maybe even Kabu's mother. If she ever gets to watch this, I'd like to say hello to you, ma'am. And I know this is a difficult year for you, but I know you are very, very proud of your daughter. So if you are watching, thank you for doing so. I start these programs also with a little recap of what went on last month. And last month, my guest was NASA scientist. He's a heliophysics expert, and he's the space weather lead at NASA. His name is Jim Spann. Well, that's what I get to call him. You get to call him Dr. James Spann. And the sun being his topic, I, of course, had to ask him that one burning question. Here's how that went. At some point, I was told in school, the sun will explode.
Yeah, yeah.
And then what?
Well, okay, we're not going to be around to.
We're not, right?
Yeah, I mean, when it explodes, well, I was going to say the outer atmosphere, but we live in the atmosphere of the sun anyway. I mean, that's what solar wind is. That's what space weather is. So, but the surface of the sun, let's call it, or the part of the sun that we can see will expand to such a degree that it'll actually come out to Earth's orbit. So
it will just burn us all to crisp.
Yeah.
And the rest of the solar system, will it reach that far? Will it go all the way?
I don't know how far. I guess I don't know how far it'd go out. But well before then, I think humans will not be around, just because we won't be able to survive even the previous type of environments that will occur before then.
So that was last month, Jim Spann talking to us about the inevitable. One day the sun will explode and all that we know will be burnt to a crisp. But he also told us it will not happen in our lifetime. So don't be panicking at this, all of a sudden. All right, it's high time to tell you that we are staying in Jamaica today from our very special guest. And she is going to join us now. Here she is, Kabu Ma'at Kheru. Good morning to you, Kabu.
Good morning to you, my sister friend, Aldith. How are you?
I am doing so well. If you are doing well.
I'm well, my sister. Shout out to your sister Aisha, by the way.
Yes.
I acknowledge her presence. And also, what a riveting interview last week. Wow. Congratulations on that. That was quite something.
It certainly was. Thank you. But Kabu, first of all, let me tell the viewers, it's 11 o'clock a.m. for us here, both of us. So they are watching at night or even Saturday already. I've been wanting to ask you to be my guest all from the start, but it happened at a time when you and your family were in times of, family time. You lost your daddy, and I thought I'd give you some space, but I did keep nagging at you to join me, and here we are.
Yeah, I think you tricked me this time.
Why do you say tricked?
It's one of those things. I don't know. I don't even know how I found myself here, but here I am.
Well, I know you to be a fireball on the radio, but much like myself, I also believe that you are quite a shy person. Am I right in saying that?
I am. I'm pretty introverted, and I think that for many of us in the media, we are that. But when we grab the microphone, it's a whole other thing. So call us schizophrenic if you wish, but it is what it is.
Exactly, it is what it is. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is take you through your life with pictures that you send me, and here and there we have a couple of extras. So are you ready for this? Are you ready to dive way into the past?
I am ready. I'm asking for ancestral guidance.
which will most definitely reach both you and myself. So your life started in the parish of Saint Mary. Let me explain to people who don't even know where Jamaica is. If you look at the little insert map, you can see that it's in the Caribbean. It's a little island with the red arrow pointing at it, right underneath Cuba, which is underneath Florida. And Jamaica is divided into 14 parishes. And don't tell me you're only counting 13, because the capital city of Kingston is also counted as a parish. So the yellow pointy thingy is pointing at my parish, St. James, which is where I live. And the blue one is pointing at St. Mary, which is one of the most unspoiled parishes of Jamaica. Would you agree with me, Kabu?
I do agree. It's one of the most beautiful parishes.
Yeah.
Farming, agriculture is a bedrock, but tourism has been creeping in, so we have to mention that.
Mhm.
But yes, it's still pretty much unspoiled.
Yeah. Please don't tell me that cruise ships are going to stop in Port Maria.
Well, you know that the slavers that they came in, they used to dock in Port Maria, so we
Yes.
do have the piers there.
Yeah.
But God forbid that the cruise ships come into Port Maria.
I join you on that sentiment. So, are you from Port Marie itself, or are you from the countryside?
No, no. As a matter of fact, I'm from where you mentioned Cuba just now. I'm gonna say I'm from Cuba, but that's a joke. So yeah, because on any given day we could see Cuba from our verandas, right? Yeah.
I can't. The lady I bought this house from promised me I could, but I mean, I've had the house for 18 years and I've never been able to see Cuba. But maybe where you are.
I'm gonna come point it out to you. But
Okay.
here's the thing, because you notice we're on the same coast almost. But yes, so when we were growing up, we took my father especially took pride in on a clear day saying that's Cuba.
Right.
So, but I'm way up in the hills from a little district called Hopewell, Marlborough, which is next door, really about 2 minutes away from another district called Africa.
So,
right?
so where in the parish can we see that on the map? Is it to the left, to the bottom, where?
So looking at the map, you're closer to Port Maria, but you're moving away from Port Maria, northwards.
Northwards,
right,
to the coast.
So you're going, you're going, but you're really going up into the mountains, or
Right.
is it eastwards? Lord help me. But anyway, so you're going up into the hills. No, you're not going to the sea. You're moving
you're
away
going
from
down.
the seaside.
Exactly.
And you're going because you go up to Highgate, right?
Yes.
And there's a reason why this is called Highgate, because you're moving now up into the hills.
Right.
And then you go down into the valleys of Richmond, but then you go back again into the hills of Marlborough, Hopewell. So that's the area that our Chief Tachi came from. Chief Tachi, just to a background to him, one of the liberators during slavery here in Jamaica. He fought one of the most significant wars for emancipation, and even though the war was put down by the slavers with the help of the Maroons, it was still one of the most significant wars that took place for emancipation here in Jamaica. So I call myself Chief Tachi's daughter, because I'm from the area where Chief Tachi is from.
And Chief Tachi still has to be made a national hero in Jamaica. That's one of the things that you are always talking about on your program. I'm going to show people who don't know Jamaica some pictures from the countryside so they have an idea. I'm telling you straight up, this is not St. Mary that you're seeing. This is a different parish. I believe it's in Hanover. But it's the countryside is much like this, like you're telling us, mountains, hills, valleys,
right?
And you'll be seeing old wooden houses in the valleys, or people building a stone house and really expressing themselves. A lot of beautiful stone churches, which are here from the time of the colonizers. So it would be something like this, but kind of different from where you are.
Right, it's greener. St. Mary's greener.
It is.
Let me just say that it's because when I go home, right, and I go home to rejuvenate, just to find my center and to find myself. And one of the things that you see in St. Mary is that when you look at the leaves on the trees, you feel as if you take them and squeeze them. You could literally squeeze out the chlorophyll, right? They are so green and luscious, and the air is
Very fresh.
it's very, very fresh. So it really is a beauty. It's always just that cool enough, right?
Right.
Just cool enough.
Not too
Really
cold,
beautiful.
not too hot, and you get a lot of breeze out there,
and a lot of
rivers, yes, and
Lots
the
of
coastline is really beautiful because you go straight up on the limestone, right, from the beach.
Yes.
I love passing through Saint Mary, but I really don't get enough chance to do so.
Yeah. To get home. In other words, if I'm coming from Port Maria, to get home to where my parents, where my mom lives now, and where I grew up, we had to cross 1, 2, 3 good rivers.
Wow.
Proper rivers.
Yes.
We had to cross 3 rivers to get
home. So that must have given you some trouble when it's rainy time?
Yes, because when it rained, I remember growing up as a child, if it rained heavily, you couldn't really go to school because the rivers would overflow the banks, and those would be the best times, actually.
Of course, as a child, yes, why not? Yeah, right.
To go nowhere.
So, looking at you as a child, what age are we? It's such a cute picture. What age is this?
Well, so that's just turning 16, I think, because that's the graduation from high school. From St. Mary High. Yes. By the way, I was a valedictorian.
Of course you were. I mean, you have this brilliant mind. I think you were. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think you were an A student. You were top of the class. Were you? You were the head girl. Were you?
Well, I was offered the position of head girl, but with one caveat, because so the caveat was this: we're choosing you for the head girl, but your attendance is you're gonna have to come to school more often. But remember, I told you about the rains. That's one thing. So you couldn't go to school when it was raining. And the second thing is, I didn't need more than 3 days to learn what they were teaching. So I insisted that I didn't need to go for 5 days. Yeah.
And they let you?
Well, my mom did, because I was an A student, right? So if I said I didn't need to be there, I didn't need to be there, and it's true.
Yeah. And you passed every test with flying colors, no doubt.
Not maths, not mathematics,
not
everything
math?
else.
Oh, really? Okay. Okay. Well, there's different minds, different sorts of minds, and sometimes they don't mix.
Aldith, I remember what I did in maths class, right? In maths exam, in my CXC maths exam, which would be GC maths exam. I wrote poetry.
I actually know another person who does that as well. So it must be a streak with these poets.
Poetry, right?
Yeah. And did you get top marks for your poetry on that exam?
I hope so, but I did fail the maths.
You did fail the maths, but they still let you pass on.
Yeah.
And so here's this young girl, like you say, from the countryside of St. Mary. And all of a sudden, we're taking a little leap in time, and we find ourselves in 1985. This is Barbados. You told me, in a time when Black women were struggling with their hair. It's a time when all of us were struggling with hair. But you were in Barbados doing what?
Right. So I quite a few things actually. But the main thing was that, my dream was always to be a lawyer, right? So I had done 1 year of law school here in Jamaica, and I'd gone on to Barbados. But then with Barbados, it soon dawned on me that law wasn't what I wanted to do. So here I am as a broadcaster.
Yes, I do believe you followed different paths. Not only the law. Did you not also study broadcast journalism?
I studied broadcast journalism, and and I studied marketing. So I kind of balance, or either I was either balancing or juggling.
Right.
But so I studied broadcast journalism all the way.
And where
I
did
did
you
that
do
marketing?
And where did you do those?
All right. So I studied broadcast journalism in the UK,
Right.
and both actually,
Mhm.
both marketing and broadcast journalism in the UK. So marketing at the University of Liverpool and broadcast journalism at the University of Central England in Birmingham, which is now City University Birmingham.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Was that on a scholarship or did you pay your own way? How did that go? Or
Well, you know,
exchange program?
interestingly enough, as you talk about scholarship, I got a scholarship from when I you see that graduation picture you showed just now. So I went on to sixth form, and so after sixth form, I got a scholarship to Oxford, right, University,
Mm.
and yeah, which I couldn't take up. It's interesting, and I think my story is not unique because I think there were many of us in those years in the 80s who didn't have enough information as to how to accept scholarships, for example,
Mhm.
and what all of that entailed. So I lost that, and you know, that was devastating for me.
Oh,
You know, that
definitely.
story
Yes. Oh,
is quite
yes.
something else, and
Mm.
that's where I was going to do law initially. But so the next thing was later on, I did through IRFM and Carl Young, I got study leave and a semi scholarship
Yeah.
to pursue broadcast journalism, and then to go back again, back to England to pursue a master's in broadcast journalism, and
Mhm.
that was a full scholarship. And
I
then
see.
later on, I did an MBA and almost finished my DBA. So it's a whole lot of studying.
And a whole lot
Yeah.
of paper that you got, diploma and certificates
Yeah,
and all of
yeah,
that. All testimony to the
yeah.
brilliant mind that you have. Really big
Mhm,
respect for that. Let
mhm.
me look at a quick look in the comment section, Cabo, because people are getting quite frisky there. That's my sister. Greetings, Poca, and DJ Conscious, who you saw in this program.
Yes, yes.
There's
Hey,
our
DJ
sister.
Conscious.
Yeah, man, DJ Conscious, big up.
Yes.
We're seeing Donna Mattis, who said
Hey, hey,
she said
Donna.
she cleared her schedule for today.
That's my sister friend.
Definitely, she's
Yes,
like myself, one of the people always in your
I
Saturday
know.
Sunday
Yes,
morning program,
yes,
listening
yes.
into all
I
the
love
things you
her
have to teach
so
us. We
much.
do.
Mhm.
So big up, Donna.
Yeah.
So let's see where we are. Yes, so you're telling us that you had this fine education, and let's take another little leap 10 years forward, where 1995 in this case, and suddenly we're finding you. You changed the hair, and we're finding you in Togo in the
Right.
west of Africa.
That's 1998.
98. That's my mistake.
98.
Excuse
Right.
me. Yes.
So 95, I think I was in Ethiopia. But
Oh,
yes, so here I am in Togo. And this is the pictures you have up are interesting because so here I am in the so I was using a Marantz. Do you know the Marantz, Aldous,
I
as a
do not.
journalist?
No. What do
Right.
you mean?
So the Marantz, remember back in the 90s when we were going out on as broadcast journalists, we carried our recording equipment, right, over
Oh,
our
the
shoulder.
thing, the heavy
Right.
thing. Yes,
That heavy
yes,
thing over my shoulder looks like a big handbag, right? So that's a Marantz tape, right? It's a tape recorder.
yes. The
That is
brand Marantz.
the
Now I get you.
Marantz,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that's my Marantz with my microphone and everything. So right. So here I am in the market in Togo, but that's what they call the fetish market, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is where you get everything you want for everything. So
Mm-hmm.
this market, if you look closely, you can see the skulls, right? The skulls of
Which picture?
so the one with the young man in the yellow t-shirt. So the
Right.
top right hand,
Okay. Yes,
top
I've
left
seen.
hand,
Yes, I've
right.
seen skulls. Yes.
Right. So
Mm-hmm.
if you look closely, you'll see the skull. So that's a fetish market. You could get anything there. But under that market is where I was heading, right? Because under that market was the fetish priest who I had gone there to interview.
Mm-hmm.
And so and I'm saying it's way down, right? It's far under. So I did go under and I had my Marantz and I did the interview, right?
That's the
And
picture on the right.
no, that's my the picture on the right is one of the chiefs at
Okay.
one of. As a matter of fact, the picture on the right is in Ghana. But it's the same year.
It's the same year. So
Right.
manifest. All right.
So
I got some stuff wrong. Tell me
no,
about what you were telling me.
no. Hold on. It's not the same year because look at my hairstyle.
No, you're wearing a beanie. I looked really closely.
Okay.
You're wearing a little cap on it.
Okay. Well, there you go. Okay.
Mhm.
So that's gone, and that was a Durbar of chiefs. So I'm interviewing one of the chiefs.
Yeah.
And then the other picture is actually my husband.
Yes, that's Arthur Green. Yes,
Right.
Dr. Arthur
Right.
Green. Mm-hmm.
Right.
The-
So when I went down under under the market, right, to the place where the fetish priest would be,
Mhm.
I did that interview with my Marantz. You notice my Marantz is working fine from all indications, right?
Yeah.
I'm doing my interviews. I listen back because you know how we are as journalists. We listen back to ensure that we've got it.
Mm.
And so I went down and I did that interview. It lasted for about an hour. I ensured that I had it, and then I came up. I went up from the market, and then when I got up, there was nothing on the tape, right?
Oh my goodness.
And I still can't understand it, but it is what it is.
Oh
I
gosh.
did listen back there, but I wasn't able to broadcast or to rebroadcast.
I hear you. I've had many incidences like this in my life, and it's so you travel all the way to Togo and then you have nothing. So tell us about the picture in the bottom. You and your husband. Did you meet there? Did you meet earlier?
No.
Why were you there together?
Right. So we were there. I think this was even before we got married, but so here we are in Togo. It was a trip to Ghana and Togo and Benin because I think we had already gone to Benin by this. But so I'm just interviewing those on the trip, and I interviewed at the time my husband to be, because it was 98, and this is the year that we got married in Kumasi in Ghana.
You did?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, well, Mr. Dr. Green, respect to you. And will he be watching?
Well, I think he's watching. He'd better be watching.
He'd better be watching. Exactly. All right. Yeah. So this kind of gives us an idea about your fascination for Africa, which we will definitely dwell further upon. But there's also a time in your life when the change, I call it, came about. I was talking about the difficult hair we all had in the 80s. Then you cut it off, and we're seeing you Africanizing yourself on the right. Is that fair to say?
It is fair to say, but on the left, I'm also wearing full Nigerian regalia.
So you're on your way too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. So on the left, I'm giving a talk at a reception for Dr. Yusuf Ben Yokanan. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because I'm holding my hand the very same way that I know you're not seeing that, but I have this tendency to do this, and that's what I'm doing in that picture.
Yeah.
So right. So I'm speaking at the reception for Dr. Ben, and then on the right, I think this was a Black History Month event at IRFM. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
It's 2 different years.
Yeah. So can you briefly, I know it's a long story, but can you briefly tell us how that change came to be, the Africanizing, so to speak? What prompted you to go back to your roots and to pick up life from that perspective? Because that's a red line in your life. What do you call it? A golden line.
Yeah. So I'm not quite sure when. And it's a question that I've been asked many times, and I've asked myself too, because I think it started in high school, where I, so Africa for me was, I honestly can't tell you that this is where I said to myself, but you're African. I'm looking back at some of my writings as a teenager, right? And so I wrote my first book when I was about 13 or so, just in high school. It's called A Tint of Blue. And I'm looking at the poems in that book, and many of them are totally Pan-African. They're seriously African, and I'm noticing also in those poems that I was searching for my African identity, and it seemed to me in reading back through those poems that I did find my African identity during that period.
Mm-hmm.
So that book was written during the summer of the early 80s, right? And
Yes.
and so if I were to pinpoint a time when I started looking to myself as an African, it would have been that time.
Right.
But then so okay, so I'm African, I'm Pan-African, I've identified my epistemology, so to speak. But at the same time, I'm still working through the fact that I am Christian, and I grew up in a Christian home, and somehow I found during that period that Christianity was in direct opposition to my African self, because Christianity, in terms of how we were practicing Christianity, my father was a minister, my mother an evangelist, or my sisters were Sunday school teachers. I mean, we were all a big part of a church, but I could not be African and be Christian at the same time. The church would not allow it.
The church would not allow it.
The church would not allow it. So that's where the dilemma started for me, that I had to choose between being a Christian and being an African. And that's when I started looking at why do I have to make this choice? And the journey has been an enlightening journey, beyond slavery, right? So sometimes you'll hear me say Christianity is in direct opposition to Africanity, right? And that is so. It is exactly what it is.
And is that because of the fact that the Christian Bible was used as a very important instrument in slavery days to subdue people, to oppress them?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. But I think on a wider scale, it has to do with what does it mean to be Christian? What does it mean to be African? And how Christianity view Africanness. So that Africanness within Christianity is synonymous with sinfulness. And that's why, and that is why, because to practice your African traditions, to practice, to embrace your African culture,
would be labeled pagan.
Would be pagan, right? Would be sinful.
Yes.
So so it goes beyond the Bible, and I think even though Christianity came out of Africa, but by the time it got into the West,
it had been completely remodeled.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm seeing these are people that you know. I'm sure I'm seeing Rahu Kemetba joining us here. Hotep, everyone. Well, Hotep to you, Rahu.
Hotep, Rahu.
Yeah. I'm seeing Rachna Wolf, who is my niece. Actually, I think she's in Aruba at the moment watching. How are you?
Hey, greetings, Rachna.
Yeah. Back to this Africanness. This is how you came to be on my radar, because of course you have this fantastic program running African. This is you in the studio at IRI FM, where that program has been running 30 years now. What is it?
31 years.
31 years, and I've been listening to you for almost that time, because IRI FM started, I believe, in August of 1990, and my first visit to Jamaica was 1991. During the first Gulf War. That's how I always remember it was 1991.
Oh, I remember that war very well, by the way.
You?
That was because we were young journalists just trying to cover it, you know?
And it was so complicated, wasn't it? Yes. So
I
wasn't listening to you on a weekly basis at the time, but I knew your voice, I knew your fighting power, and I know you've done many other programs like Sex-Wise, and of course, all those things that you do upper country, as we say here in Jamaica, when you go out on a theme hunt with Mutabaruka and Roger, and I'm seeing your wonderful broadcast assistant Shamara Preston as well. Yes,
and that's Miguel Lauren. Yeah.
Oh yes, him too. So this is you at IRI FM, the #1 reggae station, is what you call yourselves, I believe.
And that's what we are.
That's who you are. But it's less reggae than it used to be. It's more talk.
Right, because it is less music than it used to be, because and then I'm answering this question because I presided over that change, right, as a program director, and because as time changed and as people demanded more information from radio, then IRFM had to change. For us, it was always change or die. So the core, the foundation is reggae music. But the definition of IRFM has always been reggae music, Jamaican culture, which when you define Jamaican culture, what exactly is that? And how do you program that? You know?
Well, to be perfectly honest, most of what I've learned about Jamaican culture, I have learned from listening to Irie FM. It started out with it. Yeah, man. It started with that. I'm not sure it's still there. The Jamaica Corner early in the morning.
Oh, it's still there.
It's still there. It's a wonderful piece of radio. It's what, 5 minutes, and it just highlights one topic of Jamaican culture and really tells us all about it.
Can I tell you something about that? Because it's interesting you should mention that, because Jamaica Corner is also 31 years old, right? So that was a brainchild of Carl Young, who was a founder of Irie FM. And he said he called it initially Visitors Corner.
Oh,
it's interesting.
Very interesting.
In 1990, it was Visitors Corner, 91, and so on. And so visitors, so it was geared to the tourist, first of all. The tourists who wanted to know, who were coming in on the cruise ships, because IRFM had a partnership with the cruise ships, so that when the ships came into port, they would listen to IRFM. Right?
That's actually a very smart move. Yeah.
Right. So we had Visitors Corner, which was giving the news, right? So we'd give the sports news, including baseball, football, American football, all of it, and the weather report. So we knew all the states: Chicago, Illinois, Dallas, Texas, blah, you know, what the weather would be like there. And so they would tune into that because there was no internet, remember? So when they come in, they're tuning into IRFM to find out what was the score in the match last night, or, you know, what's the weather going to be like when we get back. And then once, as I said before, you know, as things changed, then IRFM changed with that. So I said to Carl Young around 94 that, and I was doing Visitors Corner, right? And the first person who did it, the first person who did it was Angela Burns. And she is from Montserrat. She is a radio broadcaster herself, so the Monstration. She lives in the BVI now. So shout out to Angela Burns, my friend. And so she did that for a year, and I did it for 3 years after, in terms of Visitors Corner. Then we said, no, but we're going to have to change this for Jamaicans now, and not just for the tourists, because things had changed. Now we had the internet. And the tourists could go on and check all that information that we're giving them. But how do we use this space? And so I changed the name to Jamaica Corner and made it information about Jamaican culture. And now Pat Clark is doing it. So
the lovely Pat Clark, yes. And like I said, this is where I got the basics of what Jamaica is, and it went on from there, because as you might know, I've been here for, 18 years actually living here, but I've been coming here ever since then. And I just fell in love with the country. I mean, I don't know why. There's something, what Bob Marley say, a natural mystic in the air, and it's just pulling me in. So
it's in your bloodline.
It is actually in my bloodline. So, but you still, apart from Jamaica Corner, you still do these broadcasts. Like you went in search of Chief Tachi and a whole heap of people that really defined the Jamaica as we know it now. And you go on the road with people like Muta Baruka, and I also see you on stage at reggae festivals, and you're still preaching in your own way. So Irie FM is more than just a radio station. It's what would you call it? A guardian of culture?
Right. So it is. One of the things that we and as a program director and as a broadcaster, that I say all the time with radio is that the public good is important. And then the minute you think about the public good, then you're going to go outside of just what is expected of you for radio. So Irie FM is an institution.
Yes,
it really is. It's more than just radio.
It's worldwide, because like you say, it's on the internet now, so people can actually, I'm supposed to remove this from the stream. We're early.
Yeah.
It's worldwide. People, you have listeners from all over the world, right? As long as they
Yes.
just set up an account with irefm.net, they can listen live.
Mhm.
I was a bit premature there with the picture. That's for later on, because we have now reached the section of the program that all my guests really dread, Kabu.
You know, I've seen them.
And it's called On the Spot, in which I ask you 5 nasty questions and I give you the options, and you're not allowed to elaborate. You have to choose. And then at the end of the whole thing, we'll choose 1 or 2 on which you may elaborate. So are you ready for this?
Right.
Here we go. Question number 1. We've touched already on your fascination for Africa. So if you had to choose, would it be Ghana or Egypt?
Egypt.
Okay. We'll talk about maybe later.
Yeah.
Are you rather in the spotlights or in your own little hideaway?
My own little hideaway. I'm not thinking about that twice. Put me under some bamboo trees where the leaves are just falling naturally, and that's a bed, right?
Yeah.
And the bamboos make a canopy.
Oh,
and I'm good, and especially if it's near to a river.
And your phone is off, and
my phone. I don't even have a phone.
You don't even have it with you. I hear you, sis. I hear you. I hear you. The next one, you're going to not like me for this. Vaccination, yes or no?
It depends. Do I have to say yes or no?
Yes, you do.
And
I'm talking this vaccination.
Oh, this particular one.
Mm-hmm.
For me personally, or just generally speaking?
No, for you. I'm not going to ask you to talk on behalf of everybody. For you.
No, I can't say yes or no. I'm saying I don't know, because you see, the thing is, I travel on a vaccine passport right now, as I say all the time. And I have all kinds of vaccinations that I've taken to do my work across the continent of Africa and the Middle East. And I'm just watching, because I'll take the Cuban vaccine anytime, right? Right. Yeah. So I'm not saying no, because if that comes into Jamaica, I might very well take it.
Yes, I was sitting in the Netherlands hearing about the Cuban one and thinking, that's the one I would be taking. Yes. But then, you know how things go. So, well, I had mine. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. So,
well, there you go. But I really do dread that mRNA thing, because that is a whole other kettle of tea that
that's the thing. We don't know much about it, do we? We'll get into this because we have to. Next question. Jamaica must come up with an alternative for tourism. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. I fully agree.
And there are many alternatives. It's a beautiful island, and not least of which is agriculture. And I'm just saying not least, because that is the obvious one. But yes. Yeah.
I was sitting during Corona in the Netherlands, hoping with all the empty hotels here that somebody might come up with the idea of making this a conference island, or places for the homeless, or an extra hospital somewhere, or school buildings, so that schools don't have to split up in two groups of children on a day. It's not going to happen, is it?
Not going to happen.
Still, we have to dream. Last nasty question. What is the one thing you would never, ever, 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 ever do again, Kabu?
Bungee jump.
Bungee jump, you did one?
Yes, I did. Never again.
Well, sir,
I don't have to think twice about that. I am still regretting it right now, and it was so long ago.
What even made you do it?
I don't know. I really don't know. There was one time in my life, right through my 20s, when I thought it was okay to try, anything one time. And bungee jumping was one of those.
That's the age when we don't think that we can ever die. That's the thing.
I marvel at my 20s, actually. I know that I was more fearless in my 20s. I traveled the world alone. And sometimes I look back at those travels and I say to myself,
what were you thinking?
Exactly.
But look where it got you. And when you travel with this is faith in yourself. I know, because I do it myself. and people are always looking at me crazy, so they look at you crazy
Yeah.
too. A woman traveling, and both of us, we're small women, and we
Yes.
carry heavy bags, and here we go trotting the earth. But the fact that you do it means you have faith in yourself, and this faith is what got you where you are. I'm pretty sure of it.
Yes.
Do you, would
I'm
you agree?
I'm frightened for me. I'm really frightened for me, and I wondered about. I'm wondering about my mother, and what she was thinking.
And how much
You
she
know.
must have, she must still love you to have let you go and not tie you to a
Yes.
tree.
She must have been scared.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once again, let's big her up. I hope she'll be watching this at some time.
Yes. I'll
Yes.
ensure she does. Yeah.
Yes. Sending enough love. So, which of these 5 questions would you like to elaborate on?
Well, tourism, I think, and Jamaica.
Yeah.
I know the obvious is the vaccines, but I think enough said there.
Mhm.
But right, so for Jamaica, so we're really dependent, and too much so, on a fickle industry, and as we're seeing in this pandemic, our lifeblood. In other words, we're losing. It's almost as if we're losing everything because we have lost out to some extent, to a large extent, on the tourism dollar. That too much is dependent on that. So the economy is in shambles. They say it is the leading industry for Jamaica. I don't know. I think it's really the remittances, but even that took a hit, right? So that we're going to have to be more self-sufficient. Tourism also is a plantation industry, so it is just another name for enslavement.
Thank you for
Right?
saying this. I've been trying to explain this to people for so long. First of all, the hotels, most of them are foreign owned. They are chains from Europe, from the States, from wherever. But please carry on. You're calling this
No.
neocolonialism.
Yeah. And ongoing colonialism, because there's nothing new about it. Nothing has changed. The more things change, the more they remain the same. So the hotels are really the plantations. Our young people are prepared in school for tourism, and it's just recently. Well, I'm happy now. I hear the Minister of Education saying that sixth form will be mandatory at some point. And that makes a lot of sense. But what used to happen, what's happening even now, is that if you are in a tourism area, you'll find that most of the high schools in those areas do not have a sixth form. Or if they do, it's just beginning to happen. And there's a reason for that. Because the schools would become the breeding grounds for the cheap labor that would go through the back. So it's from the school to the fifth form to the back doors of the hotels, because you can't even enter through the same door, can you?
So cleaning, cooking, all of that.
Spreading the bed, saying yes, massa, no massa. Just the same.
Carrying the Coca-Cola to the people on the beach, saying, "I'm ready for my next Coke."
Yeah. And grinning like idiots. But they teach us to do this, right? Because this is something that they even teach at the primary level, how to treat the tourist.
Yeah.
And that you must always be pleasant to the tourist. And remember, there's another thing in Jamaica about tourism. If you are a tourist in Jamaica, if you're Black and you've come in as a tourist, you're really not. You're just a Black person coming to visit. Good luck to you. When we say tourists in Jamaica, we're talking white people.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we know, well, I can, if you don't know, I know a policeman can't talk to a white person on the streets. Nobody can, they are trained to make life for the tourist as lovely as can be, to the detriment of the local people here at certain points. Yeah.
And then again, there's also another factor too. So there's this classism and colorism that is all tied up in tourism. So that you have here in Jamaica a situation. Try going into one of these fast food places, a Burger King or a KFC or one of those places. Go in with your black skin, and do that when a tourist comes in, because the tourist is white, remember? And if a tourist is 3 miles behind you in the line, our own people are so psychologically damaged that they will look through you and insist on serving the white person behind you.
And
So
this,
we have it's status quo.
this happens at the bank, this happens at the tax office, this happens in the stores, this happens everywhere. And I'm pretty sure that, the white tourists coming here are not aware of this. Well, some must be, but most are not. But this is the way that this country is geared at the moment, and this is why I'm always going on about tourists here. I'm from foreign myself, but at least I invested in this country. I pay taxes. I spend my money with Jamaican people, not at some luxury resort. So that's what keeps my own conscience clean. But
and let's look at the upside of tourism. Let's just say there's an upside, right, of tourism.
Which one?
Well, foreign exchange is coming in. That would be the upside. But let us look at that upside. The foreign exchange that's coming in doesn't stay in the island. It doesn't stay in Jamaica. It goes right back out, because the tourism industry is owned by people who do not keep their monies in Jamaica. It's all overseas. If you want to book a hotel now to come into Jamaica, you're going to have to do that through Florida and pay with your credit card and your US dollars and so on. That alone tells you that the money doesn't even initially come into Jamaica for there to be a consideration that it will stay in Jamaica. It is booked in Florida, and so that there's just nothing good about tourism.
There is no upside. And then the hotels tell the tourists, don't go outside our walls because it's very dangerous in Jamaica. That trope that has been spread for decades now. So they keep you inside for your souvenirs, for your beer, for your rum, for your sex, for your everything that you need. It happens within those walls of these hotels.
And it leads all this to another greater problem, which is now lack of access to our beaches. Because there's a sinister underbelly here in Jamaica that is it's not immediately noticeable, right? Because if you come in as a tourist, you're taken to a pristine beach. But if you look around, and if you're a critical thinker, you must ask, where
are the Jamaicans?
The locals? Where are the people? If you go to Barbados, it's a different situation, right? You're on the beach as a tourist, but you're there with the Barbadians. If you go to Cuba, it's a different situation. You have and you might have an entrance for the tourists, but you definitely have an entrance for the Cubans. But here in Jamaica, what they're doing now, the government of Jamaica, and this is it's an ongoing issue, they are presiding over the apartheid-like system of taking the beaches from the Jamaican people. So if you were here in 1991 and you drove from Morant Point in St. Thomas to Negril Point, you would have many opportunities
the whole
to
North
stop,
Coast.
right, and access the beach. Now, as Jamaicans, we had that, right? We could access any beach. Well, listen, now we have lost so many of our beaches that our people have found themselves wallowing in shallow waters until they become muddy. You pass by any beach in Jamaica that's open to the locals on any given holiday, and you'll find Jamaican people black people wallowing in shallow, muddy water, just trying to find access to beaches. This is how bad it is. So we must tear down all the walls to the beaches. We must tear down all the barbed wires. We must tear down all the fences. We must take all the locks of the gate. But we are going to have to do that as a people for this to stop.
Well, the first thing that needs to be done, are you getting an echo? No, we're okay. The first thing that needs to be done is for permission to build on the beach must be stopped immediately. If you take, for example, Brazil, the entire coast of Brazil, you got the beach, then they got this really broad avenue, and on the other side of it is where they start building. So that means the beach is for everyone. It could be the millionaire living in Rio, and it could be the person living in the favela in the shanty towns of Rio, next to each other on a Sunday morning. And that's how it should be.
Yes. But there's no thinking, you see, there's a lack of vision at the level of decision making in Jamaica when it comes to the beaches. And I fear that the people are too bogged down with the bread and butter issues to realize that they're losing access to the shores, to the beaches, to the water.
And you know what? Once they got all the beaches, they're going to start the rivers. Then they're going to take the waterfalls. Then they're going to
They're
take.
already taking the rivers because there's a beautiful deep blue hole here. Well, it's in St. Anna, I'm in St. Mary.
Yeah.
Beautiful deep hole, blue hole. And I'm looking at that now. I'm just realizing that the people have lost blue hole. And I saw, how did I come to realize that? I saw a story that some celebrities were here last week. Can't remember who they are. I don't know if you saw that in the media. I don't know if some of the Kardashians or something, but there's some celebrities who were here, you know, and it's interesting. And they said they were at Blue Hole. And I'm looking, I think Justin Bieber and his wife and others. And I'm saying, which Blue Hole? Get out of here. And I looked at Blue Hole. I'm asking everybody, what's happened to Blue Hole? It's gone.
Well, there's different blue holes, because I know one in Westmoreland taken by a Swiss person. So there's, you know, but it's happening.
It's the one in St. Anne, because it did say in St. Anne.
In St. Anne, okay.
And I recognized the pictures, and I thought, wow. Well, that's a people's beach. That's
the one,
people's...
yes, and so was the one in Petersfield that I'm talking about in Westmoreland. And the Swiss guy came in, and the first thing he did was build a big wall across around it. Then he cut down every tree in that beautiful garden where there was, you know, the spring water come up and the river start flowing. And and now he rents it out for people who want to get married, you know, one like this a tropical escape something. Yeah. And it really, excuse my language, it really pisses me off, because I feel I have more rights to all this beauty than somebody coming in for a day. These first people come in for a day, and they take a quick trip somewhere and then and go home. Right.
Yeah. It is a sad state of affairs. Really, really sad. You know.
Well, I know you've been very vocal about it, and you're doing your part. Oh gosh, look at the time. You must rush. I'm taking you now to your African adventures. Here's you in Egypt.
In Egypt, my favorite place.
That's what you said when I asked you to choose. Yes.
Yeah, my favorite place to be.
And the name that you took on, Kheru, is that from there? Where did you get that name?
So Ma'at Kheru, which is really pronounced Ma'at Kheru, is from Egypt, right? It means true of voice. The voice that is given her is true. Right. So that's straight from ancient Egypt. Yeah. Right. Kabo is from the area, but more it's from the Nile Valley, and it means sacred rock.
Like Kush, maybe.
Right. Yeah. And it means sacred rock.
So what a name to take on, Kabo.
I'm telling you.
And now you have to live it. How's it going so far? When I remember when you did it. When was it?
Well, so I've always been. It's an interesting thing that I've been Kabo for many years. I think it's over 30 years.
Right.
But I didn't give myself the name Kabo. My young niece, who I used to play the song from Asta Awake, called Kabo, 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 and so I called her Kabo. And then she turned around and called me Auntie Kabo, and that was over 30 years ago, right?
That's such a good story.
Right. So I didn't give myself that name. So there are many in the family who calls me Kabo anyway, and all the nieces and nephews call me Auntie Kabo. So that's been going on for years and years. So all I needed to do now was to find a balance. Once I found my voice and found myself and recognized that there's no way under any sun or moon at all that I could keep the white man's name, the name of the enslaver, that I had to change my name, then I began to tap into my ancestral inner noises in the blood, as Carolyn Cooper calls it, right?
Yes.
And it took me a while, because so when I found my Kheru, and then my friend Kwame Pianke, he says, when I told him, he says, but that has to do with the funeral rites, right? It has to do with the dead, right? Because, you know, when Osiris, and then when they're performing the rites, and when, you know, so true of voice is when you're moving into the next realm, right? So
exactly.
You understand?
I do.
So but I said it to my husband, and he said, yeah, That's really good. Really like that. And so I had the conversations with quite a few people before, and then I called my friend Bert Samuels, and I said, "Now listen, how do I change my name by deed poll?" And he said, "You're ready?" I said, "I am." And he said, "Okay, well, I'll do it for you for free."
So it's official on paper. It's
It's
changed. Yeah.
official. It's changed. It's done. It's been done for a while.
And we won't even mention your old name. If people are interested, they can Google it, because that name
Yeah,
is gone now, right? We
it's
don't
gone.
use it again. We don't use
Yeah,
it
my
again.
mother still calls me that name, just to say.
Well, she's your mother.
I
You have,
know.
I know.
Yeah,
She gave you the name, remember?
that's
So
what she says. Yeah, I
yeah.
gave you that name.
Well, I'm sure she still understands what
Of course,
yeah,
yeah.
she does, yeah.
It's interesting
Um,
because my father,
mm,
before my father, is of blessed memory. He always called me Auntie Carbo,
mhm,
Auntie Carbo, yeah.
that's
So he's been calling me that for years.
wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
I remember when you came on the radio and said, from now on, don't call me that other name, call me this name. And you're very adamant about it. Some people still know you from those times, and they come on and say, good morning, so and so. And you
I
tell them,
gave them
no.
2 years,
Yeah.
and it's done now.
And then you tell them, it's Cabo, it's Cabo, it's Cabo.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
Carbo. Yeah.
But this whole Egyptian thing, it goes deep with you, because you start your programs by reading from the Hosea, and which is, tell us, sacred
Well, the
book.
Hosea, right, is a sacred book, is a sacred ancient a text of ancient Egypt, is
Mhm.
sacred wisdom of ancient Egypt, but it's the oldest known book. The Hosea is the oldest known book, and you can Google that, and I'm not making that up. It is the oldest known text. And so, if you notice, there's so much in the Hosea that resembles what's in the Bible,
I
right?
was about to say that,
Yeah.
and in the Quran and in every other
And
book.
yeah, all the religious texts, because
Yes.
all the religious texts took from ancient Egypt, took from
Yeah.
Kemet, and took
Mhm.
from the Hosea. So yeah.
Yeah.
So no, but ancient Kemet is, I feel my ancestral bond to the Nile, to the River Nile, and from all the way from the Blue Nile and the White Nile. So if you're coming from Lake Tana in Ethiopia, I feel myself on that Nile. Or if you're coming from Uganda, I'm feeling myself on that Nile.
Mhm.
So wherever the River Nile traverses, that's my spirit. That's where I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a river child.
You are. You definitely
Yeah.
are. And well, maybe not the river took you there, but you also went to Ghana a couple of times.
Yeah.
This is the last time you went, I believe. This was 2019. Am I right in saying this?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
That was 2019.
So this was when Ghana proclaimed the year of return,
Right.
and invited all Africans from the diaspora to return to Ghana and talk. And you went there and reported. And I encircled Kwame Nkrumah, who was the first president of Ghana, and actually led Ghana to independence in, was it 57, 8, 9, something like that?
Yeah.
Ish, yeah.
Yeah. Mid
Yeah.
50s. I'm not.
Mid 50s, yes. And I encircled him because you use the quote, that the quote next to his picture is one that you use a lot. So tell us about that quote, because it definitely means a lot to you. I know that.
It does. It is, when I saw that from Osagyefo for Kwame Nkrumah, it connected with me on so many levels, because we who are on this side of the world, who know that we are connected to Africa, that Africa is a motherland, and know the history of how we got to be here from before Columbus, that we were traversing the waters before Columbus and the Spaniards, that later on some of us came with Columbus, and that still later on there was a middle passage of slavery. And so understanding the history of how we are here, then to make that connection back to continental Africa and who we are as Africans, when through a colonized education, we have been thought that we are Jamaicans or we're West Indians or we're Caribbean people without connecting back to the motherland. When I read that quote many, many years from Osagyefo, when he said, we are Africans, not because we were born there. And we have to tell people this. It's not because we are born there, but because Africa was born in us. You know what's interesting is that when the Irish in America says that I am from Ireland or I'm Irish, nobody questions that. When the Italians in America, who's been there for ages and ages, say we're Italian, nobody questions that. But for us as African, we have to prove, and I think that's why Osajifo found himself coming up with that, to say it's not so much that we were born here, but it's not a question of being born there, but we always have to prove ourselves as Africans, even to our bloodline and our melanin.
Yes,
and it's a shame, really.
Why do you think that is? Why is it specifically the African who always has to explain him or herself to the world?
Right,
and nobody
because
else seems to have to.
nobody, that's true that nobody else seems to have to do that. But I think the bottom line to this, you see, is that the African, so we're the initiators of civilization. We built the pyramids, we founded the first universities. There's so much that we've done, but there's an upside for the enslavers in us not remembering. And if we connect back to our language, or we connect back to our land, then there is a slight chance, just a slight chance, that we might remember. And what would we do if we remembered? And that, to me, that is as simple as that.
Yeah. So it's still oppressing. It's still oppression.
Yeah, it is.
Well, you, like myself, don't let yourself be tied down. So you did go to Ghana, and you went on the right side. We see you at the door of no return, which is where the cargo, so to speak, the enslaved people were, loaded onto slave ships and carried across the Atlantic to places like Brazil and Suriname, where I'm from, and the entire Caribbean, and not in the least the north of America as well. So there you are, and on the left we see you at Slave River, which is, I believe, where they had their last bath before they were put on the ship.
Yeah.
How was it? I've been there, so I know, but tell us how it was for you to be there in Elmina, next to Elmina, that fortress where all of this happened.
So I'm not quite sure if you can see from my body language how distraught I am. And this was not the first time. This was like the seventh or so time. But every time I go, and I just come from the female dungeons, right, where they would where the enslavers would keep the women who they enslaved. The dungeon that opens up to the rooms of the enslaver, right? And you'll always hear the story of how the women were made. It's the sex trafficking, and also, they were made to go up, and they would be raped, and then they were made to go down again.
It's a pitch dark cave-like area where the women were kept. You can still, after, Kabu, tell me if I'm wrong, after all these centuries, you can still smell the sweat, the fear, the blood.
You can.
You
can feel the energy, the vibration in that place is so much that it's on another frequency, and the frequency that you can still hear the cries of the ancestors. You can hear them weeping. You can hear the screams. There's a whole other vibration in that place that just takes everything. Shamara Preston was there, my broadcast assistant, and she cried out. She broke down. She was bawling. My daughter was there, and when she heard that, she herself was broken. So what we felt there was something, and you feel that every single time. So yes, Elmina for me is a place that I make a pilgrimage there. I don't like to go there, but I make that pilgrimage for the ancestors, and I do the rituals to the ancestors.
Yes.
And then the slave river, the river, I know they call it the slave river there. We say enslaved or not slave, but So I don't know if you know the story of the fact that we returned along with Sister P, Sister Minnie, and myself,
I
the
heard it.
ancestors.
It's blood curdling. I heard it.
Yeah.
Yes. Mhm.
So this is this is just the remains are buried here, right? And then they're buried at Asin Manso, and this is a place where when they're coming through the part of the Middle Passage to the inlands, then for doing slavery, they would stop here before they took them to the market, took our ancestors to the market, and this is where they would have them bathed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you go through that, where it says "Welcome to slavery," if you go through that passage, you're walking down to the river, right? And that river itself still cries. That river, it will pull you in because the pain. They say that you can't step into the same river twice, but I tell you this river is continuing, because the agony, even the babble, you know how rivers babble? Even the babbling sound is a cry
Yeah.
for acknowledgement, is a cry to make it right, because we still haven't made it right for our ancestors.
And our ancestors taught us that water does not forget.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
Water does not forget.
I only learned this recently. Water does not forget. So a quick look. That's you on the right with Nia, your daughter. So it must have been very special.
That's at the Cape Coast Dungeons. They
Yes.
say castle, but it's a Cape Coast Dungeons.
It's Elmina or not? It is Elmina.
No? That's Cape Coast.
It's gone. Okay. Anyway.
I think that's Cape Coast. Yeah.
All right. And how is it? How old is Nia now? Your daughter?
Well, she just turned 13.
13. Yes. So how was it for you to be there with your 11-year-old daughter at the time and experience this together?
Yeah. It was on many levels. It was really. I was thankful, right, on many levels that I could be there with her, having that experience and taking her through that experience. On another level, I was really overjoyed for her because she saw Africa in a way that we didn't get to see Africa. So even though she's at the dungeons now in those pictures, we were going through Africa, right? We were going through Ghana. And she's totally in love with Ghana. Whereas when we were growing up as children, we were taught to hate Africa, remember? And now she's totally in love. We went to the University of Ghana, for example, and she was bowled over by just the vastness. And we went into the different classrooms, we went to the lectures, and so there was just so much experience that she had there. She carried the flag, she carried the Jamaican flag in the Durbar of Chiefs.
I was listening to that live program and I saw the pictures afterwards, and I remember having goosebumps listening to you being there, and how your voice changed and how your stridency picked up even a couple more notches, and it was beautiful. And too bad after that COVID happened, because we were supposed to be going back all together. And it didn't happen so far, but it will happen at some point.
It will.
Yeah.
There we go.
So your program is about all of these stories, your radio program that I listen to every Sunday. This is you.
Thank you for listening.
Oh, well, it's part of my staple. My day would not be complete without. But it teaches us all this heritage, and it teaches us to look at the world in an Afrocentric way, because as a journalist, I was trained in the Netherlands, so I have a Western point of view. I know my friends in Asia have an Asian point of view. You are the first person, well, you and Muta Baruka, I must say, you are the first person who taught me to look at the world from an African perspective, for which I will be truly thankful ever. Why do you think it's important in a country like Jamaica, but also all across the globe, to listen to a program like yours?
Right. So I just to answer it simply, how do you know who you are? And so you talk about the being trained in the West. Well, listen, in Jamaica, what we get is colonized education. So that's why we talk about decolonizing the curriculum. So because everything is colonized, everything that we know about ourselves is negative. We aren't even, and so for me, and this is why we talk about activism and activist journalism or advocacy journalism or radical journalism, because there's so many names for it, is to see things through our lens. What about if you look through your own lens? What about if you respond to this as an African, as opposed to what you've been colonized to think? How might you respond differently? So the aim of the program, if you notice that we have a vision, which is to reunite the African family for development. It is not a slang. I'm serious about that. How do we reunite the African family, the millions of us who are all over the world, for development, not just to reunite, but for development? And
For development, exactly.
what if we understood what that meant? And then so the mission includes, and we talk about what the mission includes every Sunday morning, which is honoring my moral obligation to remember. Because what does memory do? What if you remembered? How might you respond? How might you do things differently? So part of the program is, so it's educational in that, but it revisits the history, and the aim of it all is so that we can see ourselves as Africans, begin to act as Africans. But what does that mean to be African is another question that I ask. So one question leads to another, right?
Exactly.
So what does it mean to be African? To be African is to be our ancestors. What did our ancestors achieve? And if they achieve that, then what can we achieve in this time? And that's one of the reasons why I go forward to Kemet. Because if we can build the pyramids, if we can start the first universities, then what might we be able to do in this time with so much more that we have now? So,
Exactly.
so that's
that is the aim. And do you believe it's you've started a movement? Because I think you did. But do you believe that you started something?
I hope I started something. I hope I started something, because I hope so.
Well, if nothing else, what I notice is people like Donna Mattis, who's watching us today. I wouldn't have known her if it weren't for you. And the things I'm learning from her and Irie Daughter, and there's a whole lot of people that I know because I know you. And this is what you mean by saying reuniting the African family. You are actually doing that. You are teaching us not only to come to Sunday school every day, every week in your program, but also to think together, look together, experience things together. And I do believe, and you're opening our eyes to many things that we are simply not taught in the West, like you said about the first university and medicine, for goodness sakes, is an African thing. Let's Asian. So things like that. Yeah.
Thank you, my sister.
No, thank you. Really, thank you for your relentless energy in that. There's one more thing I'm looking at the clock and I know you have places to go. I would really love for you, because this is the first time we really met live was over poetry when you finished this book and I came over and had it signed at a poetry festival. And I would love you, if you found one, to read us a short poem, please, Kabu.
Oh, wow. So I was going to read a much longer one. So there's one there that's called Where God is Altar, right? And it's pretty short.
Okay.
And so the book is called Making Kenke from Memory. Where God is altar, there is silent grief. Where man is sacred, there is divine peace. Where in captivity the slave belief take hold in minds, and honor there no sees, the death is slow and hard on our knees. Pretty short. Yeah.
Where do you find those words?
Oh, thank you.
I remember one time I asked you about a certain poem. I said, Kabu, I'm not sure I understand your poem. And your answer was, I'm not sure I understand it myself.
That is true.
That
That
is
is
true.
true.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
everybody needs to get themselves a copy of this book, and it's a good place to start
Yes.
to get into the mind of Kabu Ma'at Kheru. The picture on the right, I really love it because I remember when we took it, what you said the Tuawi frock and boot, wearing a dress and our heavy shoes.
We were dressed identical, you know. We
True.
were in these big frocks
Yeah.
and boots, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's which is the way I still dress. I love that.
Yeah. Me
Yeah.
too, yeah.
So Kabu, I have to say I'm thrilled that you took out this time to talk to me. Let me quickly, before I round up with you, quickly tell my my viewers that next month we are going to have a special guest from the Netherlands. Hold on. Sorry about this, Kabu. I need to do something here. Sure. What am I doing here? Hush. I'm going to put you away for a little bit. That's what I'm going to do. Yes. So my next guest was going to be Annemiek Janssens, who has a really interesting story to tell about, first of all, her own life, how she got to be a person walking with sticks, but how it never stopped her from doing anything, and how she has ties now with the Live Strong community, which means that she does all kinds of events to help people who are survivors of cancer. And it's actually, I met her through my own sister Aisha on Twitter, because Annemiek became friends with Aisha, and that's how she and I got to be friends. And I'm fascinated by all the work that she does, and I will be talking to her on Friday, October the 29th, coming up, and that is, as always, at 6 p.m. Central European time. So stay ready there to see Annemiek Janssens. Back to Kabu. I'm going to play out with a poem that I know is very dear to you and dear to myself, by Claude Mckay. Give us a very short bio of Claude Mckay, please.
Well, I'll start by saying my mother's favorite poet. And so this is brilliant. So Claude Mckay from Jamaica, was part of the Renaissance movement, the Harlem Renaissance movement, was a traveler, but someone who still never forgot home. And so he's written many poems about kind of linking back to home. He's known as the Jamaican people's poet. Yes. He's a Pan-African, an activist himself, and he used his poems, his activism. A lot of what he did was through his poetry. So Claude Mckay. Yeah.
Claude Mckay, and Pan-Africans across the globe love him, which is why I'm going to play out with a performance by the South African actor, singer, musician, dancer, Annelisa Pewa. I'm not sure if you know Annelisa Pewa.
No.
Well, you're going to
No,
Google
but I'm
him.
going to know. Yeah.
You will,
Yeah.
because I Googled him and found him. And that's how we're going to play out. But first, let me thank you for being here. I know you got business to take care of, and your daughter is waiting for lunch probably, or something like that. And thank you again for being my guest, Kabu.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Stay in the orange room when I take you out of this show, so you can watch the poem by Claude Mckay. So bye-bye, Kabu. I'm taking you out of the studio. And I'm telling people that this is what we're going to go out with. Like I said, Annelisa Pewa. And Annelisa Pewa is going to perform for us a poem by Claude Mckay called If We Must Die. I'll see you next month. Thank you for watching. Thank you for all your comments. On the 29th of October, I'll be back. Until such time, be good, be nice, stay well. I'm out of here with Claude Mckay.
If we must die, let it not be like hogs, hunted and penned in an inglorious spot, while around us bark the mad and hungry dogs, making their mock at our cursed lot. If we must die, Oh, let us nobly die, so that our precious blood may not be shed in vain. Then even the monsters we defy may be constrained to honor us, though dead. Our kinsmen, we must meet the common foe, though far outnumbered. Let us show us brave, and for their 1,000 blows let us deal one death blow. What? Though before us lies the open grave, like men we'll face the murderous, cowardly pack, pressed to the wall, dying, but fighting back. But fighting back. But fighting